which is shockingly, shockingly, shockingly low. Should we be paying mothers to breastfeed their own babies?
Keep it quirky.
So today I went on a little bit of a research binge. I heard somebody say something really quite interesting to me, and that was that there has been a study recently to encourage mothers to breastfeed their children. In this country, the breastfeeding rates are super, super low. We are one of the poorest developed countries for breastfeeding uptake. And there's been a study by Sheffield University to try and encourage mothers to breastfeed their babies. That study actually involves something very controversial, and that's paying mothers to breastfeed their children in the form of shopping vouchers. Don't get me wrong, they're not being paid a monthly wage or anything like that. The way the scheme works is that mothers are paid £40 in shopping vouchers at certain intervals. I believe those intervals are 2 days, 6 weeks, something like that, 4 months, 6 months, something like that. So if you're still breastfeeding at those certain points, the mothers will receive those vouchers. What interests me is the fact that looking at UNICEF website, and I googled breastfeeding rates in the UK, their website goes on to say that, where is it? Across the UK at 3 months, the numbers of breastfeeding women was exclusively 17%, exclusively breastfeeding, sorry, at 17%. Which is really quite low in itself. But that's at 3 months. At 4 months, it was down to 12%. And then, exclusively breastfeeding mothers at 6 months old in this country is 1%, which is shockingly, shockingly, shockingly low. 1 in 100 women are still breastfeeding exclusively at 6 months old. Now, we are advised that we shouldn't be weaning until 6 months old, and having looked into it myself, there's solid scientific evidence for that. So I'm assuming that 1% exclusively breastfeeding is also meaning women who have not yet weaned, which is what we should be doing. But my concern is that the figures are a lot lower than I really imagined they would be. I thought a lot more women, especially given what we know today to be happening with formula feeding and how bad it is for babies' guts and their health overall, I thought that the rates for breastfeeding would be a lot higher. It's actually really shocking to me to find that out, that 12%, was it 12% at 4 months? And to find out that, my baby's currently 5.5 months old, that I really am in the minority, somewhere between 12 and 1% of mothers that is exclusively breastfeeding, is really shocking. So coming back to the study, I know paying mothers to breastfeed their own child seems very controversial, not only for the fact that mothers should be doing this anyway. Why should we pay them? Why should taxpayers' money be spent to give to mothers for doing what they should be doing anyway, which is doing the best for their children? But also there are mothers that would be completely excluded from this because they are unable to breastfeed for health reasons. Perhaps they've had surgery, perhaps the baby themselves is unable to breastfeed. But actually in the majority of cases that's not the case. Those people who are really unable to breastfeed are the minority. Personally, I feel that it's in our culture today that formula feeding is a very viable option. It's definitely the easy option. It's harder in many ways to breastfeed, especially those first few weeks and those first few days. I feel if mothers can get through those, just go through that first week, that first few weeks. My daughter here had a tongue tie. Those first 3 weeks were horrific, absolutely horrific. My 11-year-old son, That first week with him was horrific until we troubleshooted and managed to get through that first week. But mothers are not told that breastfeeding is not the easy option, and that needs to change. And I feel that with this study, what they're doing is informing women that breastfeeding is worth something, that it's valued by our society, and it's valued for the future. We know that it's best for the children, but perhaps not everybody in everyday society knows. It happens to be something I'm very interested in, and I research. So I have looked at studies on breastfeeding and formula feeding, but that's not something that everybody does. I do feel that actually paying mothers to breastfeed, even if it's a temporary thing for the next couple of years, is probably actually a very good thing to be doing. We don't know the full results of this study yet. There was a small sort of pilot study that was done a few years ago, and I believe that the full results of the full study are about to be released. But I personally feel that how can it be bad if what we're doing is somehow encouraging mothers to feed their children and letting them know that what we feel is it's valued. As a breastfeeding mother myself, it's hard work. It's not the easy option, not in any way, shape or form. First of all, you can't just give your partner the baby and have that night's rest. And I feel that in our society today, there's a lot of value placed on getting a baby into a routine and being able to have the partner take equal responsibility. And in some ways that's good, but I also feel that mums and dads have different roles, equally important but also different. And my role as a mother is to feed my baby. So why can we not let women know that that's highly valued? Back to using taxpayers' money, which I believe is not happening at the moment. It's done through the study. However, I feel that the government, from little bits I've read, I believe the government commented that it wouldn't be something that they would look at doing, which I feel is a great shame. Why shouldn't we let women know that this is valued? Why shouldn't we invest taxpayers' money into breastfeeding? Because in the long run, the likelihood is that it's going to save the NHS a lot of money. We will have a society with a much better immune system, a society with much less incidences of autoimmune conditions. The list goes on, and I'm no expert. I am just a mother with an interest in this topic. But I really do feel that this isn't a bad thing. I understand that it's somewhat controversial, and I do understand why it's controversial, but I certainly fall on the fence of this is a very positive thing. If we could do this for a few years, and then we have a lot more mothers actually breastfeeding in public, it becomes normal within society. That should roll on to changing our view within society about breastfeeding. If it becomes normal to see women on the street breastfeeding, the taboos will not be there. Personally, I gave up breastfeeding my son when he was about 5 months old, just a bit younger than my daughter is now, and I regret it. But I was a lot younger back then. That was 11 years ago. And I feel that I probably would have breastfed a lot longer if I'd seen a lot of other women doing the same. But there wasn't. When my son was 5 months, I was certainly in the minority. I was a young mother. I was 23 years old at the time. And I felt uncomfortable. I really did. Now there is a lot more support in place, and I feel less uncomfortable talking about breastfeeding and being very pro breastfeeding, which sometimes I feel you can't be pro breastfeeding because a lot of people are pro formula and pro choice, and that's fantastic, and then the breastfeeding mothers are not allowed to be pro breastfeeding because that's almost seen as anti-formula feeding and anti-choice. But that's a whole other topic, and I digress. But I feel if this study can bring people back to breastfeeding and seeing it as something that's more normal within our society, that will just snowball onto better and better and better things for breastfeeding and make it more normal. It would make me feel a lot less uncomfortable when I am breastfeeding my child in public. One thing I'm finding at the moment is when my baby was a newborn, I had a lot less of those strange looks, and now she is bigger, those looks are certainly coming my way. It seems that people feel that I should be bottle feeding by now. By now I should be moving her to formula because that's the accepted thing to do. I applaud anything that will make it more normal for me to be breastfeeding my baby at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 plus months in public. If we could just break that taboo by having more mothers do it, then anything that applauds that and encourages that is fantastic. Taxpayers' money should be going into this. It absolutely should. I have no doubt about that whatsoever, that we will be saving money in the long run by having a healthier, happier society with children who are not separated from their mothers to be formula fed, and children who are breastfed as nature intended. I could go on about this for hours, I really could, but I thought I'd share my views with you. It's something that I have been thinking a lot about today, and I've been researching a lot about today, and it's really been on my mind, so I thought I would share it with everybody. If you like what I have to say, if you don't like what I have to say, if you have any further information or think I may have my facts wrong, that's absolutely fine. Please kindly let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe using the notification bell as well as the subscription button. And hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Bye!